everybody? It's Phil from Zaid Comics, the writer and co-creator of Magic Cop, a graphic novel that is live now on Indiegogo and just one half of the two best-looking brothers in all of comics. And today, we're getting back to some comic reviews. I do apologize for not putting some out regularly in the past few weeks because it's been crazy campaigning for Magic Cop. We're so happy of how it is going, and now that the 60-day campaign has ended and it is rolled into in-demand mode, you guys can still hop on over there, pick up the book, any of the add-ons you want. We are so close to 100 backers, and when we get there, there's going to be some more cool things that we're giving away to everybody, so check that out. But the comic we are talking about this week is Dark Horse's The Mask. All right, they just came out with a brand new Mask comic. There hasn't been any Mask comics for a really long time, and they're coming out with this one subtitled I Pledge Allegiance to the Mask. So right off the bat, you get some vibes from there, but I want to preface this video with a little info about my, relationship with the character. I was born in the 90s, and I loved comedy, making Jim Carrey my favorite actor when I was a kid. So much so as I told my mom that when I grew up I wanted to be like him, and I told her I wanted to be a funny man for a living, a comedian, just like Jim Carrey. Loved all of his movies. I even went back and watched In Living Color, and The Mask was one of my all-time favorites. It still stands really high on my list just because of the nostalgia, the acting, the chance of being a superhero in that world just totally rocked my imagination. And then not until late, growing up in the 90s, we had that. Then we had the Mask cartoon, which I was really into because that spawned the Mask action figures, which I was all about. I had a bunch of those. I had the big car with the giant mouth and the huge teeth. And then, as I got older and actually got into comics more, I realized that the Mask was a comic book character. But I got hugely into Lobo and saw that there was a Lobo versus the Mask comic out there by the Mask creators and Alan Grant. And I picked that up off eBay and read those two issues as a little 2-issue miniseries. It was awesome. Totally pulled from the wackiness of the movie, but also staying true to the original comics, which were really bloody and super awesome. Duck Mankey drew that as well as the original comics. So I want to get into that a little bit so you guys have some reference of what the original comics looked like compared to this new comic that doesn't have any ties to the original creators. And after reading this new issue, I made it, a priority of mine to, before reviewing it, is to go back and read the first story of The Mask. So that I'm going to show you the cover of that right now. The Mask was originally serialized in a kind of anthology book called Mayhem that was put out by Dark Horse Comics in 1989. So that's how far this character went back. He was on the first issue cover. This is the cover right here. As you can see, his awesome green big-headedness, but doused in blood. So if you guys have not seen these comics before, it might be a shocker to you if you only know the Jim Carrey adaptation, which is amazing. I mean, it made a bunch of money, and it led to Jim Carrey being one of the highest paid actors in the 90s. Rightfully so. He was amazing in my eyes, the things he could do with his body. And just his acting chops, his comedic chops, this was the perfect character for him. And as we can see here, in this Mayhem issue, there's 3 stories, each being 12 pages each. The first one being The Mask, and then those subsequent stories I didn't dive into yet. But 4 issues of this series. So the story of the mask is, like I said, serialized in this. So in each issue, you get a different part of the story, right? So this is the first part, and it is in black and white. It first appeared in black and white, later to be colored, I'm pretty sure. And I was so surprised that they take the character Stanley Ipkiss is straight from the first story of the mask. I love that. Uh, as you can see, here's the mask here. Lots of the lines and situations are taken straight from the story or subsequent stories later on in the Mask miniseries that he had, or Mask Returns. So now knowing this, it seems that the movie is pretty faithful to situations and characters, just not ultra violent, because this is an ultra violent character. As you can see, he puts the mask on, wraps around his head. It looks awesome. Look at that. The suit turns crazy. And he goes out, gets hit by the car. He says he could be a superhero. You know, he wants to use these powers to mankind to serve others in need. But first, and then he just trashes this biker gang, you know, ripping people's faces off, setting them on fire, mowing them down with an Uzi, after getting a hole blown into his chest. And he's invincible, and he is bloody, and it is so fun. He is so funny and manic. It's wild. Reading this was a joy and a blast, and I ran to my comic shop to try to pick up the next stories, but they're ordering it for me, so hopefully I'll get that, so I don't have to read it online. I can actually have the paper in my hand. So the next stories that came out with Doug Mahnke, and the original creator, is this movie, The Mask. Look at this cover pictures. Awesome. This is what I remember seeing at the library, and this is in color, and you get, again, a lot of the same situations from this comic were put into the actual movie. But he has a girlfriend. You know, Detective Calloway is in here as well. But yeah, and then I just wanted to show you guys that so we can get on to the new Mask, 2019. I pledge allegiance to the Mask with a new writer, a new artist. When I first saw this cover, I'm like, oh, this is cool. You know, the Mask is coming back. I could get into them, you know, and start reading what the Mask is all about and see what they take them in this new version. Because my knowledge of it is anyone can wear the mask, right? So Stanley Ipkiss was the first one in the first storyline, and then a bunch of other people have worn it. Even Detective Calloway, you know, Stanley Ipkiss's girlfriend wears it at one point. And it's kind of like 100 Bullets in the fact where it's stories about different people wearing the mask. And that's what I got from Lobo versus the Mask, which is super hilarious and very bombastic. It's very silly and fun. Multiple people are wearing it. Lobo ends up wearing it in that story. Definitely check it out. So I dig the painting style of this cover. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. You know, you see like the strokes digitally painted. Maybe it's traditionally painted, I'm not sure. But the cover was cool. They're definitely going with the political route, which I hear later in the series that the Mask did go with a lot of political commentary. But from that first the first 48-page story in the Dark Horse's Mayhem, there was no politics at all. He was going out on a revenge spree, killing people, and I really dug that because it was a lot of action, which in comics, you know, makes me happy. But I do want to read and see if it does go political. And, you know, we have right here, very topical, Make America Green Again. This is a great drawing of the character. Really dig that. But they're definitely pressing on the political issues here. And the intro pulls up on this horrible scene of parenting where these 3 children are being berated by a parent, being locked in a cage, and just horrific scene of parenting, dogs barking, but you get this, someone's got the mask. So big kick to the balls and a punch to the face, man. And we see that the mask is there. Now, right off the bat, this art style is totally different. You know, I didn't think it was going to be the same as the cover. It's totally different and super dark and doesn't remind you anything of the old Mask comics, because even though they had that dark tone, dark humor, lots of ultra violence, this is dismal dark. The tone and colors, the art is lending to a horror comic, and you don't even get that bright green because it is muted by these cool colors. And you lose the, right now, you lose the fun of the character in these action scenes. I mean, it's crazy what's going on, right? But it's even though the mass killings in the old ones were real, this is like very real, and how do I say it? It's like sad. Like this is, oh, there's no fun in it. That's what it is. There's no fun in this action, and there's no wackiness from this character so far. And I'm going to spoil it and tell you, this is all the action you get out of the Mask. Is these 1, 2, 3 pages in this comic. In a 24-page comic, you get 3 pages of action from the Mask, and basically, you know, maybe 3 more pages of the Mask on page, because this story is hyper political to the point where it's jumping around so much from different states, from different scenes, from different politicians and people talking about politics, and there's so many characters in it that it lost my attention. It lost because there's no more action in this book. It lost me having to keep track of this storyline of what's going on politically. This chick is running for some candidacy, but of course there's corruption. There's a scene in here where some guy tells her that she has to perform oral sex on him. So the issue basically ends with another person putting on the mask and saying that he's basically going to run for presidency, throwing around the MFer down here, and ends with this cool, splash here where, and it's another ad for the next issue. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it as a Mask comic. The Mask has super ultra violence. The Mask running around killing people and being wacky and silly, and being this fun character that's very dark. I just didn't see it in this issue. Not gonna say it's not gonna be through the rest of the series, so I'll probably pick up the next one to see the flow of this story and how the arc is going, and hopefully it could keep my attention during those big expositions. That's what a lot of comics are now. People are using dialogue for exposition in these drawn out scenes and bouncing around from place to place, and it loses you if you don't have that action. If you're not showing instead of telling in comics books especially, then that could be a real issue for your audience. So all in all, this one didn't grab me. It didn't seem to hold true to what I read in that first little series from Mayhem. Obviously a different creative team. And there is one reference to Stanley Ipkiss in the story from the woman who is running. She seems to be one of the main characters of the book going forward. But she mentions him, I think, being a client of hers at one point. So it's still in the continuity of the Mask. But what I'm going to do, I'm actually excited that I'm going to dive into the actual Mask series, because I want to get the trade, and I would love to review that little short story I showed you guys, that 48-page one from Mayhem, and I would love to go in and review more stories of the characters, because those are Like in that first story, I was laughing, laughing out loud at what's going on. Like this character is insane, and he's having so much fun being wacky and just being impossible. Like with this reality manipulation, that character is really cool. You could do anything with him, and something that is inspiring me right now for some of my own work. So hopefully I could do that. I'll definitely review the next issue that comes out next month, November. So let me know, what do you guys think? What do you think of the character? Do you guys remember the movie? Did you like it? Did you know about the striking difference between the comic and the movie, where one was super violent and the movie wasn't? What do you think of this art style? The differences that I pointed out here. Leave a comment below and start a conversation. We love hearing from you guys. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this, and hit that bell for notifications so you know when we're doing live streams. We've been doing a lot of those lately. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will check y'all next time. Hey guys, have you heard of Magic Cop? This is the comic book that we're making at Zaid Comics. It is live right now on Indiegogo. It is that Miami Vice feel mixed with monsters and magic. 88 pages, fully colored graphic novel. And be sure to pick up that ash can that comes with it. It's going to have a bunch of concept art and a 12-page pilot issue. So check it out. We're fully funded. That means if you back it, you're definitely going to get this book. And we're heading on for the stretch goals. So help us out to get there. Thanks, everybody.